Hello everyone. Today we'll be talking about state, but last week we were talking about props. So let's do a bit of refreshing. Do you guys remember about what prop is? Sumi, do you remember?
It's a property of the component that you can pass down.
So data can pass into a component. Right, so let me go to the browser. Oops. One sec. So basically I have a header component and I want to create a prop. So I want to pass in some data. Let's just say I want to pass in the prop title and I want to call it Kadiri. And then I want to pass in another prop, subtitle, coding bootcamp. Now, I passed in the props into this component. How do I communicate from the parent component app to the child component header? Do you guys remember? So I'm in header component now. Where do I pass it? Where do I pass it in? Inside. Yeah, but if I pass in props, nothing will happen, right? Exactly. Well, not important. I need to pass it into the argument, don't I? Header and argument. So I can call it anything, but in general, you can just call it props. Right. So I want to console.log this props and see what's inside the header component. Right, ignore that. So we have an object of the title Kadiri. Yeah, there we go. So we have a prop of title Kadiri and a subtitle of coding bootcamp. Not sure. Oh, excuse me. Should be in strings. That's why. So let's refresh it. Yeah. So we have a prop of title Kadiri and a subtitle coding bootcamp. So that's how you can pass data into a component. Now, I want to pass in another component called student. And with student, I want to pass in a prop of name. So for example, whose name should I use? Florin. And I also want to pass in a prop of score. Let's just say, let's give him 100, because I'm being generous. Oops. Now, same thing with header. How do I communicate from the parent component to the child component? So props, right? Yep. And then for name, yeah. So props.name, yep. Right, this one's a bit tricky. So I basically want to pass. So I just want to use the student component in the app function component. And pass in the score and not use the challenge score component. I just want to use student in app. So how do I communicate? How do I communicate the two components together?
What do you not want to use?
Pardon?
What do you not want to use? I didn't understand.
Yeah, so look. So in app.js, I'm using the student component and I want to pass the data name and score. However, with score, it belongs to challenge score component, right? But I just want to use the student component and pass in score. So, yeah. So I want to pass in the prop score and then just type in props.score. That way I will get data from the score here. So if I just type in this, props.score. So now I have Florin, the name, and the score 100. Does it make sense? Yeah? Cool. Now, so for this exercise, for today's session, I'll be talking about state, obviously. But with props, can the data be changed in props? That's my question. So can I change props.score to, I don't know, to 70? Can I do that? Yes or no? Yes. Why is that? Tell me.
Because you're changing it inline, and therefore you can pass whatever value you
Okay.
assign to it into the prop.
Yeah. Shall we have a look in the browser? So we have an error. So cannot assign to read-only property score of object, meaning with props, data is read-only, therefore immutable. So what's the other solution other than props? How can we modify data? Pardon? What do you mean by component?
Like when you get the data, where you get the data from.
So we use props to pass data into a component, so therefore we can only read it, but we cannot modify it. So the solution is to use state. Yeah, that's a class. Yeah, it's in a class component. So only states can change data. So if I show you guys, so if I take off this, so it's back to 100. Now, do you guys know how to create a class component? So if I copy this, anyone? No, not yet. So obviously, for a class, so for this is a function. This is a functional component. I now want to convert this to a class. So do I still need the function, the keyword function here?
Class.
Pardon?
Class.
Yeah, class. And then what?
Extend something.
Extend something. Okay. So class challenge score. Right, for class we cannot have an argument here, so therefore I have to take this off. And then Paolo said extend, right? Extend from what? The React component. Is React a component? React.component, exactly. So for this, we are basically creating a class called challenge score, and we are pretty much extending from the React API of the component of the class component. Yeah. Right. There's one method that is required in a class. That's it. Render. So that's the only method you need in a class component. Now, so what do you think? Do you think that there's no difference in a class component and a functional component? Can I still use this? So with functional component, if you're just basically using props to display data, like this for example, I mean that's okay because you're simply using props, you're displaying the score. So a functional component is fine for this. However, if you want to use state to change data, you need to use class. Now, I have a question. Since I cannot add an argument like props like this, how can I display props from here? Does anyone know? Any idea? So normally, when you use props in a functional component, you type in props.score, but in a class component, how do I display the score 100 for Florin? Any idea, guys? Okay, you use the word this. Yeah? So you can't pass in the argument here like this, like I said. So therefore, you must use this.props.score. Any questions so far?
What is the object that this is referring to?
The score 100.
From which object?
From the app from here. So I passed in the prop of score 100 to the student component. Yeah? Okay? Now, I no longer want this anymore.
Can I add something?
Yeah, sure, of course.
So far, is there any advantage of using a class component compared to the function component? Imagine that this is the final code, that you don't need to do anything else.
So in general, you can still, you can still use a class if you just want to display props for data. However, if you want to modify data, you have to use class. So technically speaking, I can use class as a stateless component for everything. I can just basically abandon this method and use class instead. But because a functional component is a lot easier to write and read, I would prefer this way if you just want to display data using props.
Yeah, I agree on that. Do you agree, guys, that yes, for the sake of this example, the function, the code on top, the code commented, is slightly easier to read and to... Yeah, you don't have to deal with this dot and all these things, right? But yeah, but as Vincent said, we sometimes need to do things that unfortunately with functions are not allowed, right? Like we said, to modify the data.
Exactly. So any questions so far? Z, you okay?
Yeah.
You seem confused.
I just it's a little bit too flashy to.
Oh, you want to move somewhere? Want to move next to me? Cool.
Is it too bright? Guys, remember, you can get the screen in your laptop.
No, it's about the sound that is coming from the back
No,
again.
yeah, because of that, because instead of looking to the screen, if you are too far, you can watch the option in the laptop without any noise.
Is it live?
Yeah, it's live. Yeah. If you go on YouTube under Kuderi's channel, yeah.
It's youtube.com/Kodri/live.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. All right. Anyway, guys. Right. So I no longer want to use this anymore. I don't want this 100 anymore. I want this back to 0. So obviously I'm just hard coding to 0. So does anyone know how I can initiate the data, the state data for score? So Paolo, you mentioned constructor. Yep. So what's next? So. No, it's not a function. It's basically a constructor that is extending. So because I'm extending from the component class, I need to use a constructor. Yeah, so if I show you, so you use a constructor, and then what, Paolo? Nope. So there's an error here. What is it? Yeah, I need to use super. Yeah, so basically, in order to call the constructor from the component class, I must call super. Yeah? So like I said, I need to, so this constructor belongs to the challenge score class. However, in order to call the constructor from the component class, I must use super. Yeah? In order to, let's just say, you want to get access to the React API. Let's just say that for now. Okay? Now, I want to initiate the state. How do I do that? Paula, you remember? Just like this. Like this. Yeah, that's it. This dot state, well done. And then you said equals, right? So this dot state equals to what? An object, right? Cool, nice one. Now, to initiate a state, so because I'm basically trying to get 0, I need to create a key called score and then 0. Now, how do I display the score 0 here? So before I said you can basically use this dot props dot score to get, in order to get 100. How do I get the data from state? Exactly. Well done. 0. Anyone with me so far? Yeah, you with me? Cool. Right, next one. So next one, I basically want to create something extra. So do you bear with me 1 second? Let me copy these arrows. I want to create 2 buttons. One button to increase the score. So let's call this increase score, just to make it clear for you guys. And another button, can you guys guess? Decrease, exactly. To decrease the score. So let's call it decrease score. Now, obviously, nothing will happen. Do you guys know why? There's no function, exactly. Well done, Z. So, how do I make the magic happen? So you said create a function, right? Can I just do this? Can I type in this? Oh, few seconds delay. Okay, cool. But anyway, guys. So Florin, can I create a function like this? Does it work? Doesn't look like it's working, is it? It's a red line, ziggly line. So with class doesn't like functions. It's like Boris Johnson next to Jeremy Corbyn. Why are you here? Get to the other side, you know. So under class, when you create a function, you must always exclude it. So all you need to do is create the name. Yeah? Are you guys with me? Now, for increased score, obviously I want to increase the score by 1. Can I change the state directly, like this? Can I do that? Well, not like this, but well, this dot state like this, yeah, like this. Nope, you can't. So there's an error, isn't there? So expected assignment, blah, blah, blah. Right, with React, you must use their special built-in method called setState. So you can never change the state directly, but you must call in their method using setState. Yeah, so if I show you guys. So this dot setState, and then I'll create an object inside, score, the key, and then this dot state dot score plus 1. Anyone with me? So, how do I connect these two together? Does anyone know?
Set state dot score.
Where?
Instead of state.
Where do I put it?
Call it the class on the same line is the class name. Can you call it like that?
Nope.
Call it the function.
Okay. You know what?
You could just write it
Okay.
as increase score.
Okay. Look. Let me make it easy for you guys to understand. Right. Let me comment this out. So let me create a console.log. Let's just say, hi, I am increased score. So creating console.log, and in order to connect the button to the function, I must use a thing called an event handler. You guys ever heard of it? Yeah. Event handler. So React has a special event for button anyway called onClick. Yeah, I mean there are many other event handlers such as onChange and onSubmit, but for button you mainly use onClick. Right. So in order to connect these two together, I use something called this dot increase score. So now let's test it out. So it works. So that means it's wired. Yeah? Right. So what if I do this? What will happen if I add a parentheses at the end? Anyone? You got it? What will happen?
It will increase.
Not increase, but I wrote console.log, hi, I'm an increased score. Do you think hi, I'm an increased score will appear when I click on the button, or will it activate straight away? Florian?
Probably activate this straight away, I think.
Yeah, why is that? Yeah? So, if I show you, so Florian's right. It will activate straight away. So therefore, when you refer to a function, never add parentheses at the end.
So, are you saying if you add that at the on click that
Mm-hmm.
on that, and you will get a call
Straight away, yeah.
straight away
Yeah.
before you need to add it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just
So yeah, just a word of warning, don't use that, yeah? So, without the parentheses, it will work. But with the parentheses, it will activate straight away. So here, yeah? Cool. Nice. Now, back to the subject. How do I bind this together?
You can do it with the fat arrow.
Pardon?
You can do it with the ES6 fat arrow.
Oh, you mean the arrow function? Yeah, that's one method. But give me the first method before I show you the second method. Because it makes more sense if I show you the first method.
Bind this
Writing
out in
function.
states.
Writing function before.
Yeah.
Function. And
So I use dot bind. Okay, what else is missing?
Do it in the button rather than in state.
Not really. But within bind, I will have to use the word this. So this refers to the class component of challenge score. So if I show you, so this, if I console.log, so if I render this will show me that it belongs to this, to challenge score. Yeah? So, if I want to bind these two together, I must use this in order to let the class know that you're trying to bind the function together. Does it make sense? Because I'm binding the function increase score to the class challenge score. Yeah? So let's see if it works.
Why do we bind now and when the function had only a console log and didn't need a bind?
So before, I'm just basically testing if it works. So before, I did this. So what did I do? Console.log. So hi. Yeah, hi. Just say hi for now. And let me get rid of this. So this dot increase score refers to this function.
Yes.
Console.log hi. So if I just type in, if I click on increase, it means that it's connected.
Yes.
However, if I'm trying to increase the score, this state.score by 1, I must use bind. So in order to bind this state.score, so here, to this function, I must use .bind and add this inside.
So can we say that this is because on your function you need to access this? So with the console log, it works.
Mm-hmm.
But with the console log, it works because you do console log, hello, I'm sexyboy19.
There's nothing.
there is nothing to do with this. But if in your function you need to access this, and look at Vincent is accessing this twice, as far as I can see, you need to bind, because otherwise JavaScript doesn't really understand this what. The context is gone, is missing.
Okay.
Thanks to .bind this, JavaScript understands what we want to do.
Yeah.
Okay? That's crap, but that's the way JavaScript has been working since 1995. Okay? There are now some efforts trying to reduce the complexity of that structure.
But yeah, so to make it easier for you to understand, Paolo, so if but no, let me show you one more thing. So if I do console.log this within this function, what will happen if I don't use bind?
It won't work.
What do you mean it won't work?
So if we use
So if I click on this, it says undefined. So like Ricardo said, if you don't use bind, if you don't add this to the end to this, if you don't add bind this, React won't understand what you're trying to do if you don't use this. Yeah, cool. Right, now let's go to Sumi's method. What's that?
Just
Go on. You're mumbling.
where are we going as a function of increase?
There we go.
So you put cost increase score equals open parentheses.
What within the function?
No, at the top.
On top? What do you mean? I don't understand. Yeah,
Cost increase score equals open parentheses part arrow and then the stat status.
but where do I put it? Sorry, I don't understand.
You increase score.
Which
Number 19,
No.
right?
Yeah.
number 19? Well, this function is pretty much done now, isn't it? I don't need to modify even. I don't need to add any more
I got
information.
the point of what Sumi is suggesting. So the thing is, there are multiple ways to solve the problem. What you are suggesting, that's not even part of JavaScript yet. That's some sort of experimental. So she's suggesting to transform the class method definition.
Oh,
to number
yeah.
19.
Okay, I know what you mean. Okay, I know what to do.
I
Okay,
don't even know if that will work, to be honest.
it will work actually. It will
Will it
work.
work? Okay.
I know what she. Okay, well done. I know what you mean. Okay, let me show you. Yeah.
So even without the cons, right? You don't even need the cons on the left.
I think you need a const, don't you?
No.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah. Okay, let's give it a try, shall we? And then
Then in
With-
theory,
without
you get rid of
the bind.
the
Yeah,
bind.
no
I mean,
worries.
if that works, that's super sexy. That's the best solution.
Oh, does work.
Nice.
Nice. Anyway, back to my method. Right.
Can I tell you something? Because that's a good point. On Tuesday, we had an event in Shoreditch. Well, some of you were there, maybe? No. An event with 70 senior developers, top guys making 700 a day, all these things, right? And one of the guys, he called me, like, hey, why this code doesn't work? And he was doing literally that. The platform wasn't supporting that sort of arrow methods. And so Wednesday, that means literally yesterday, I had to change the code. So now you can do training on the Codiri platform using that super erotic way of coding. Seems stupid, but to me the code is much nicer. Yeah, because you don't need to deal with both lines. It just feels more natural. Yeah.
Sumi.
Lazy.
No, not lazy, just smarter, isn't it? It's smarter, yeah, more practical.
How do
Yeah,
you know that? That's not obvious. The 99% of the developers they don't know that.
yeah, exactly.
No. But it's there in year 6 as soon as you learn.
It's not year 6. That's not year 6. No. So arrow functions, the strategy, that's year 6. That's supported for 4 years
In
now.
year 6 arrow functions, you can cancel the bind.
Yeah. But be careful. Because here you are associating an arrow function to a class method. So classes were supported since 2015. Arrow methods were supported since 2015. But combining them, I don't even think that's part of the standard. That's a draft. So there is a recommendation to incorporate that to the standard. Thankfully, because the community agrees that this is a huge step ahead, now we can use it. But this is sort of experimental, so be careful. It's fantastic, but be careful.
Okay. Right, that's my method. Right, what's the other method? You said it's arrow function, right? How do I do that, Simi? So before we were using bind, weren't we? Bind, so bind, and then this, right? Now I want to use the second method. How do I do that? The arrow function. You just mentioned it earlier. Yeah. How do I do arrow function?
Empty parentheses equals the greater sign.
And then what?
Then you take out the parentheses.
Like this? Oh, you can't see?
You don't need the parentheses before everything.
Let's give it a try. Nope, nothing's happening.
So you need the arrow. You don't need the curly braces.
You don't need the coded braces? Well, it's JSX. You need to, yeah, because it's JSX. Because this is, so this is JavaScript. Okay, cool. Yeah. So basically, yeah. So assume it's Harper, right? It's fine. It's good. So arrow function. So parentheses, equal sign, and then the right arrow, and then at the end of the function, you add the parentheses here. So this is called an arrow function method. So it will work. So do you guys know why it works? So there's a thing called lexical dis binding. Anyone heard of that? So with lexical dis, if I pass in the arrow function, it will automatically bind to the class challenge. It will always bind to the class challenge score. So we'll get more into that with lexical dis because at the moment it's still too early, but I will cover that in future workshops. So lexical dis. So right now all we need to remember is with lexical dis binding, it will automatically bind the function to the class.
So to me, the suggestion is don't try to fully understand lexical dis because that's a nightmare. We can speaking cover it on the very last week of the bootcamp because of two reasons. First of all, because it's complex, so obviously you need to train all the things first. And the second reason is because that's a classic job interview question. So if anyone then wants to apply to a job interview, I've done hundreds of interviews in my life to candidates. One of my first questions is always, what lexical dis is? Yeah? So we want to make sure this is fresh in your mind before going to the market. So to me, don't try to fully understand it. Just follow any of the patterns that Vincent has explained. 3 options. The classic one, dot bind. This is the next one, and then the futuristic one, that's the one that was the most. Yeah?
So if we remove the second one, we did Sumi's one, it will still work?
Yeah. If you remove it, yeah, correct. If you remove the arrow function and now it will work.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, the smart way. I like this one actually. It's a lot easier. Okay, I'll refresh it. Hold on. Yeah, it's a lot easier. It's a lot simpler. I don't have to think. Alright, so are you guys okay so far? Yeah? Okay, cool. Right, so we're nearly done. So, now that we can modify all this, however, so let's go back to app.js. Where are you? Okay, so now I want to go back to Florian's data. So name, Florian, score 100. So because I can't gain access to the argument props here, like this function, I now want to pass it into the constructor. I now want to modify the 100, Florian's 100 score. How do I do that? How do I pass in the props in constructor? Very similar to function. Very similar. Florian, do you know? Wild guess? Julia, just one wild guess? Very similar to function. You just pass in props and also in super as well. Now, for this dot state, you need to initiate the value. So I will use, just very similar to props, I just do this, props dot score. And that's how you get, I'll gain access to the data 100, and I can modify it. Yeah? So with stateless components, you can still use props as well, props and state. Yeah? Any questions, guys?
How about the decrease that way?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Let's create the function for decrease. So change decrease plus, so -1. Get rid of this. Now, very similar to this one. Actually, you know what? Copy the whole thing. Instead of increase, I can change to decrease. So let's see if it works. It works. Yeah? Anyone okay so far?
Be extra careful with the capital C on click. You see it?
Oh, yeah.
It's a big C.
Mm.
Because in JavaScript, in all JavaScript, the event is on click in lowercase. But on React, can you change it to lowercase? Will it work? I'm not sure. I think you'll get a warning or
yeah.
maybe an error.
Let's have a look.
Not sure, not an error. But if you open the console,
No, it just won't work.
did you see? Just by changing
Oh,
the
yeah, it's
case,
an error.
you
Yeah,
got the
yeah,
error.
yeah.
And
So
probably the error is telling you,
yeah, it's an error.
ah,
Yeah,
look at the error. The error is very sexy. Do you mean on click with capital C?
Mm. So with JavaScript, it's okay to use on-click or lowercase, but with React, it's more special. You need to use camel case instead. Yeah. Anyone okay so far before I end it? Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you.
Cheers.